Bring in ABC News contributor Brian Buckmeyer, host of the Law and Crime Network, who was able to watch the court hearing today on a video feed. Good to see you, Brian. It's already day one. We heard testimony from one of R. Kelly's accusers. What did she have to say?
Thank you, Lindsay. So yes, we did hear from one of the accusers of R. Kelly, Jane Doe number 4. We heard about how she met R. Kelly, that she actually was at his last trial where he was acquitted and bumped into him there on a number of occasions. She told us about how she lied that she was 19 rather than 16, and about how R. Kelly raped her and took her virginity after he found out that she lied about her age. She continued with the story of how she not only continued that relationship with R. Kelly, but also introduced him to one of her friends. Talked about the relationship they had and the control that he had over her. Again, feeding into the prosecution's theory that this is an individual who's not only taking advantage of young girls, but controlling them in every way, shape, or form.
Did you get any sense of how her testimony may have landed with the jury?
I think extremely well. So for us watching the court, we can't see the jury at all. The way the video is set up is that we can see the accuser testifying, we can see the judge, we can see R. Kelly, we can see everyone. But we can hear what's going on in the courtroom, we can hear her words, and at least for those who are in the room that I'm with, that being other people from the media, we can hear how impassioned her words are, we can hear how hurt she was and how the act of raping her and taking her virginity in the way that she described would have affected anyone within earshot. So I think it landed very well with the jury and very well for the prosecution.
The prosecution had the chance to introduce its entire case today to the jury. What points did they highlight in particular?
So prior to going through each and every one of the Jane Does and how those allegations fit with things like bribery or keeping an individual captive and kidnapping or transmitting herpes to an underage girls, they started off by talking about what this case was and wasn't about. That it wasn't about R. Kelly's sexual preferences or an individual who likes to party, but it was about an individual who was committing the act of statutory rape and creating child pornography in the means of an enterprise of runners, producers, managers who understood who R. Kelly was, what he wanted, and how he wanted to be pleased, and they facilitated bringing these women to him, grooming them in a way that created this RICO Act, that created these Mann Act violations, and set the stage for what the witnesses would testify to.
We also heard from R. Kelly's attorney today, who portrayed the singer as the real victim here. What was her argument? Did you find that compelling?
So the argument is that this is buyer's remorse. It's the same thing that we heard in the trial of Harvey Weinstein or other people who we claim to say they fall from grace, people of power, who have the ability to attract people. A lot of these accusers are saying they bumped into him at a concert, at McDonald's, at his trial, and that his aura, persona attracted them. And so when they talk about him being a victim, they're trying to make it seem like they're out for money, they're doing this because they want to get closer to his fame, and that there's buyer's remorse in that after the relationship was ended and ended in a sour way, they are committing these acts of accusing him of these crimes, and he in fact is the victim here because these are consensual relationships, even though he's having multiple partners at a time, but he is the victim of their revenge.
Brian Buckmeyer, we thank you so much. Know that you'll stay on top of this trial for us.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
A long-awaited sex abuse trial of R&B sensation R. Kelly. On day one of his New York trial, the prosecution called the singer a predator who lured girls, boys, and women with his fame and then dominated them physically, sexually, and psychologically. We'll hear more about what happened in court, but first, here's ABC's Janae Norman on what led up to today's dramatic testimony.
Once the self-proclaimed king of R&B, superstar R. Kelly, now called the mastermind behind a criminal enterprise in this Brooklyn federal courtroom where opening statements began in the sex abuse case against him. Kelly appearing stoic, occasionally whispering to his lawyer, the mood in the courtroom solemn. Court documents allege Kelly used his fame to recruit women and girls to engage in illegal sexual activity, some minors at the time of the alleged abuse. The prosecution vividly describing what they say the alleged victims endured, including claims of getting herpes from Kelly and countering the defense's argument that the women were just groupies. Kelly, who was indicted back in 2019, is facing 1 count of racketeering and 4 counts of violating the Mann Act.
The state is saying that he transported them across state lines in order to commit sexual acts with them, which would be illegal. The racketeering comes in because it pulls all this together. And it also allows for instances that otherwise wouldn't have made it into this trial can now be used in this trial.
If convicted on all counts, R. Kelly faces 10 years to life in prison. He's pleaded not guilty. Believe I Can Fly and party favorites like Ignition Remix. But R. Kelly is no stranger to controversy. In 1994, he married singer Aaliyah, just 15 years old at the time. Kelly was 27.
His brand and his star was so much bigger than any of the headlines that was coming across. And I think we just, foolish on us, shame on us, look the other way, kind of brushed it under the rug.
Their marriage annulled less than a year later. Allegations of sexual abuse following Kelly for years, with some claims settling out of court. In 2002, Kelly was charged with child pornography, allegedly seen in a sex tape with an underage girl. He was acquitted of the charges in 2008. All the while, the singer still climbing the charts.
It became like this really unfortunate, tragic way of looking at child pornography in ways that we should have never allowed that to happen. Instead of, did you see it? It should have been, how could he have done that?
But things began to unravel for Kelly in 2017 with a news report claiming to blow the lid off a so-called cult run by the artist, according to parents and a former associate who were interviewed. The article in BuzzFeed alleging that Kelly had 6 women under his control and that, quote, he controls every aspect of their lives, dictating what they eat, how they dress, when they bathe, when they sleep, and how they engage in sexual encounters that he records. That bombshell lighting a firestorm in the era of the Me Too movement. Soon, the hashtag #MuteRKelly was created, calling for fans to boycott his music. Black Girls Matter! And activists demanding deeper investigation into the singer. Then, in 2019, Lifetime releasing a damaging raw docuseries, Surviving R. Kelly.
I'm sorry.
Featuring his alleged victims, including his ex-wife, Drea Kelly.
We had, for the first time, the ability to see all of his victims essentially lined up, episode after episode, scene after scene. You could not but be affected by that.
A month later, Kelly was charged in Chicago with 10 counts of aggravated sexual abuse.
You see R. Kelly get charged and you see him walk in handcuffs. That was shocking to me because we were, for the first time, seeing these women's stories be validated.
He was later indicted in federal court in New York, where he now stands trial.
The prosecution is really going to be looking to show that these are not isolated events. It's not one woman, and that they were not free to leave.
We're going to straighten all this stuff out.
Kelly has fiercely denied all charges against him, including in this explosive interview with CBS News back in March of 2019.
I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life.
When we look at his defense, we're going to see a lot of information about the fact that he was a highly well-known, sought-after celebrity. So bodyguards are not unusual. And having bodyguards, escort his latest paramour to a room isn't unusual. She wasn't being held captive. She wanted to stay. So we're going to see a lot of that being broken down very specifically.
But regardless of the outcome, the singer's legacy forever tainted by the disturbing and graphic allegations depicting him as a serial sexual predator.
I think his legacy is going to be more so the absence of R. Kelly, right? And the ability for us not to push play. And I think that is a victory for his victims, that they essentially have stopped the music.
Janae Norman, ABC News, New York.
Our thanks to Janae for that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.